How's it going, everyone? This is the second time I've had to stream this video. For some reason, the first one didn't get saved on YouTube. So, you would have seen my previous video, which I did yesterday. I had no audio in it, so there was no speaking whatsoever. I thought that was pretty boring, so I thought I'd add my microphone this time. So what I'm doing at the moment is I've got to build an RPG game. I don't want the player to use the mouse or the keyboard, so I've set everything up so it's going to be used with a gamepad. And as you would have seen yesterday, I was using the menu system in the game with the gamepad. Also, you would have seen that I'm using an RPG starter kit. It's not the one, as far as I know, it's not the one that's on the marketplace. This one I got from Kyle here. The link is in the description. And he's got a download link where you can download it. I don't know who did it or who made it, but he's been kind enough to make it a free download. So you'll have a starting point for an RPG game. It's a hack and slash one, so he goes through his video and showing a little bit of it. But yeah, here's a download link here on the video. Also, the gamepad with the UMG, I just searched on Google a couple of months back and was able to find this. He was looking at how to use a gamepad for his UMG system, for his inventory. Wes Bunn did an example. So he's got a download here, so you can download it. It's just a basic one. It's basically, where is it? Menu. So basically, it's similar to this. All he did was he had 4 buttons, but where I haven't got buttons this time, even though I've got buttons here, I'm not using them. I'm using the text. So I've got a text menu, which I haven't set as a variable, but I've got the inventory, character, options, and logout all set to variables. And what I've done then is I've got the variables, made an array and set it. And then if it's equal 0 in the array, it will set it as highlighted. This is on event construct. It will set it to highlighted, and then it will move on to here. Then it fires every tick, the move highlighted, which is this event, and depending on if the gamepad left stick, is moving up or down, if it's moving up or down, it will then fire these custom events, move up and down. I've set this here is moving, so if it's not, it's set to false. So if it's not true, which would be, yeah, if it's not true, sorry, not false, it's true, it will then fire. So once I set it here to moving to true, so that won't allow that to fire, and it will run through this blueprint here. So you get the current button, you minus the max amount of in the array, which is 0, 1, 2, 3. I've put a clamp there, so you go 0, 1, 2, 3. Set the button, and then it goes through, gets the current button. If it's highlighted, if it's valid, it will then set it to a default. If it's not valid, it will then set it to a highlight, and then I've reset the is moving boolean back to false again. And I'm able to use that to move up and down. So you can see I'll enable the menu, left stick, and you can see it's moving up and down. That's what it does. Alright. Now I did exactly the same thing with the inventory system, where I got all the variables, which is this button widget, which I created. Where is it? Here, which is just exactly the same as you would do if you had a normal inventory, which with an array, you set your image, and then you'd place that image throughout the array. But here I've got an image and a text. They're both variables. So I've got the data structure that I'm using for the inventory. Got the image, set the size, and did exactly the same thing with the text. I got the variable, got the text, and set it. So then when I put it into the inventory here, I just dropped it straight into a scroll box. There's 25 in total. And it will go through, it will set the current slot or created slot from the array. Then for each loop, it then sets what's needed. So I get the array, I set the item data. Then here, I got get the player character, I cast to the character, get the inventory, which is here, made it as a variable, set it to the data structure. The reason why I did it this way is because then the inventory is actually on the player character, where previously if you get the if you get this one here off of Kyle, it's actually, the inventory is actually set on the widget, which is it's fine if you're going to print to screen, but because the way I've set this up with doing it dynamically with the buttons, it won't show up, and so I had to set the inventory on the character. So the inventory is always on the character. I set it to a public variable, so it's editable. Yeah, so I get the inventory, I make an array, and I've set the inventory item ID, which is just how many items you picked up in the array. That sets that, and then I get the value, and I get the max value of how many buttons in the array, and I set that and clamp it. And then with that, I set the max array. Then what I do then is I get the array equal to, and exactly the same as the menu. It's either set to color is highlighted or default color, which is I've got on here, which is white is a highlighted, default is a grey type thing. And exactly the same as the menu system, you go through the same process of setting up current buttons, max array, get the clamp, set it, get the button, and then check to see if the current button is selected in the array. If so, then either highlight it or set it as a default color. And then what I've done here is I've put in I've got the scroll box, and I got to set the scroll because there's going to be 25, so it's only a small scroll box, as you can see here. You can't see 25 there. So what I got to do is, you got, depending on which direction you go, you either minus it or you plus it. So I found on mine that 60 was a good number. So I don't have 25 items in here at the moment, but as you fill it up and as you push down, then the scroll box will slowly move down. So you're out, and then when you push up, it will slowly move up too. So you've always can see what's highlighted is always on the visually on the screen there. So that's how I've done the inventory. So you're able to select it with the stick, and then the way I've set this up here is, as you would have seen with the previous video, where it was adding the items to the array, but then where is the item? It kept adding items to the array, and whenever I put on the player and then put a new item on the player, it kept adding more to the inventory. I did a Google search. They said don't do an add, use an insert instead, which is insert. They said to use an insert. If you instead of adding to the inventory, just get the array and insert the item into the array. Well, I tried to do that here. That didn't work. I then put the add back in, and I tried to do it here. So I got the array, instead of adding to the array, on give to player, it would then insert it back into the array once you took the item off the character and put it back into the inventory. But what it kept doing is it kept adding into the array. So to work around that, I created another add, and then instead of getting the current ID, I got the current button. I added the item back into the array, and then instead of having it already there in the array and then adding it again, I then removed the previous one. And it's a hack to get around the problem. So at this stage, as I said, this is the second time I've did this recording. So what I was up to prior was trying to get this menu system to work. This one here. Trying to get this one to work instead of firing, because as you can see here, the event tick got a sequence, and it comes down just to fire the quick game. It gets the current button from the menu, which is the third one, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, the logout. If that's true, then when the button is pressed, it will then go true and then quick game. Well, I had that set up same here with this. But what was happening is when I had it set to true and then the sequence to either go turn the inventory on and set the menu to hidden and turn the inventory on, what was happening is that would fire, but I've also had it set up where I had the same button firing off here with after this highlighted, which would then add the use action and add the whatever item it was in the button or in the array to the player. What was happening is I was getting a call stack. You would have seen that in the previous video. So I had to work around how to fire it without putting the input action button pressed all over the place, including like in the menu, in the inventory here. So the previous video I was trying to record but it got deleted was I added a custom event and added a bind event, and I put it in the character here. So what I did is created an input action and called it, so I knew exactly what it was. It's the face button down pressed, which is this is on the gamepad. On the gamepad Xbox one, it's the A button. So when that is pressed, it will then call that, and then once it's called that, it will then allow that button in the main menu here. It will then call that event and fire off and make the inventory visible, as you'll see here. At this stage, I've disabled the back button. So what I'll do is I'll go in again, and I'll show you after I pick a couple items up. So when I press this button, you'll see it will automatically connect the whatever's in inventory 0 straight to the player. I didn't do it that time. And so you can see here I've got the scroll button working, where it will scroll up and down depending on how far down it is. That I was having a drama there where whenever I clicked on the item, it would then automatically add it to the player. Now the problem is, see it's got here set active, so I'll show you exactly what the drama I was having prior. So I select that and see it would then fire that off straight away. Because what I was doing was, you see here I've got inventory active. It's going through a branch. I had that connected up. Here you can see here I cast a character and I set it. So if that was true and I had it put here at the end of the button pressed, which will then enable the inventory to be active. So as you can see there, it was firing it off straight away. But it still works. As you can see, I can now add stuff to the character in the inventory using the gamepad, and then I can also take it back off the character, put it back in the inventory. So what I've got to do is I've got to be able to get this after the menu's been opened up. I've got to be able to allow every time I press a button, gamepad face button, to fire an event in the inventory. I know what you're thinking. You think you will just create another input action. But I'd rather not do it that way, otherwise you're calling the same button multiple times. Even though I'm calling it here in the jump, once the menu is enabled, I've added a branch in and I've locked the movement, which is here. So when the menu gets opened up, gamepad special left button, it's true, it'll do a flip flop, it'll either lock the movement or it'll unlock the movement depending on if its inventory is open or closed. It will set visibility if it's open and set menu open, and if it's turned, if I press the button again, it sets it to hidden and also unlocks the movement and then sets open menu back to false. Now the drama I'm having is, as I said, is this part here, where I'm pressing the button, it's firing this off here and setting it, but then while it's setting that there, it's also allowing straight away for this to become true when the button is pressed, so it then fires this event off straight away. So what I've got to do is I've got to set this up so it will then set the inventory if it's selected, and then enable the event to be fired whenever the button is pressed, when the inventory is open. So the only way I could think of is, instead of setting it here, I was thinking if I set this, instead of setting inventory active, maybe I set the number, but then that'd fire it off straight away as soon as I press the button. As I said, I'm not a game developer, so I'm learning as I'm going along, and you'll see me make mistakes as I'm trying to figure out the best way of doing something. And in doing so, if you're the same as me and still learning, you'll see how I worked a way around something. And I'm still racking my brain on how to set this up. Just having a little bit of a brain fog at the moment. press the button, menu's open via this call event. Then once the inventory is open, when the button is pressed via that. But the problem is the setting of the inventory active. I need to find a better place to set this instead of having it on. On this branch of the event. And that's where I'm stumped at the moment. Just trying to work out the best way of doing it. Is menu open? Set it to true. Fire the event. Enable that. Because the only other way I could do it is put it back to is input key down and the button is pressed, and if that's true. But the problem is it still will fire it because it's firing it here and then it's firing it again there because you're pressing the button. So that won't work. Only other thing I can think of, if I create another custom event just to set that, which will then still fire it off of here. Or the other way would be to set this inventory active instead of putting it here. Might be wise to put it in the inventory instead. And then what I'll do is get inventory active from here. Set inventory active to true. Then get it. Branch. If that's true, is it a delay? I was going to put in. Maybe I might want to put it up further. And that delays all that, so I can't do that. So I'll put a delay here. Delay it. And set inventory active. See if that works. Right, so it didn't go up straight away, and now I'm able to then select it. Cool, so now what I've got to do now is set up the gamepad face bottom button back. That's what it is. It's the right. I'm using the right button on the face, so of the gamepad, which is the B button on the Xbox controller. So I've got to do exactly the same thing there, where if I hit a button, it will then go back. So project settings. Input. Add a new one. Gamepad. Face. Button. Right. Gamepad. Face button. Right. Right. So now I've got that. Come back to here to the character. Input action. Gamepad, face button, right. Create an event dispatcher and call this return to menu, maybe. Return to menu. Right. So I'll get open menu. Get that. If it's open, when the button is fired, it will then call, return to menu, and then in here, bind event to return to menu. Then create a custom event. I'll call it character inventory return to menu. It's a long one, but at least I'll know exactly what it is. So when this is fired, it will then fire that event on event fired. It will hide the inventory, set inventory boolean if it's moving, set menu back to visible again, and then set the boolean in the menu. So I'm able to use the menu again. I'll give that a go and see how that works. Right, still selecting. Hit the back button, and I go back. And the problem I've got now is because it's been selected. Let's see if this works. Yep, so there's now the menus not opening up. When I press the A button, which is the jump button or the select in the menu, so that is fine. Now the problem I have now is even though I can select these, I'm going to have a drama later on when I want to be able to set a skill level. So if there's a skill that I want to have, or the character wants to have, and they press the B button to set that skill to that button, it's gonna hit the back button. So I'll have to work at that later on, but at the moment that's just a hack to get this base part working. So then that stops the draws, the call function that was working everywhere. And now I've got this drama. What's this? It's just the inventory where it's adding and removing. It's saying don't do that, but it's doing what I want it to do. So at this stage, it can stay there. It's got no major errors with it. So that's the main menu and the inventory, adding items to the character, opening the inventory, closing the inventory, and getting the buttons to press the way they need to without it firing other buttons up, which is unneeded in other menus, which is good. So I suggest if you're ever wondering what the problem is, if you ever do a menu system like this, is do not put, at the start you might want to put this in where you put the input key down, but then when you've got it in one menu and then you add it to another menu, you need to separate it. Otherwise you'll have the same drama I had in the video yesterday, where it was firing the button. When button was pressed, it would fire it here, plus also in here, and it was causing an error. It was getting a call function error, whatever it was, and now and again it would crash. So that fixes that problem. So I hope that helps if anyone's trying to do a gamepad implemented UI like I am. And the next video, I might start on doing the consumables. So which would be exactly the same as the way this item is set up. All I've done at the moment, I've just put a base in, which is this one here. As you can see, before I made any changes to it, I duplicated it and renamed it. So this one here, as you can see here, I changed the struct, which is this one here, consumable items, which is basically I just duplicated it again. This one here that was used for the character, just renamed it to consumables. So then that struct can be put in to here, and then as I said, I've got to fix all this up. So we'll do all this in the next video, and then we'll hopefully have one inventory which is going to be just all the weapons, which is the one I've got here. This is an inventory of all the weapons, and I'll probably have an inventory for the armor, which will then add buffs and damage and that, which I can add later on. And then in the consumables, which will be added to the inventory here. So then you'll be able to go into and select if you want a potion, it will give such as more health, more mana, and so forth. So hopefully that will work out pretty well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, post them below. And I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. I'll do a video and I'll move on to the consumable side. You might see how hopefully it all works together. I'll see you then. Bye.